I don't know how to relax because part of me thinks that urgency is the only thing that's keeping me from failure. Like if I'm not constantly doing something useful or moving my life forward, then I'm falling behind. So in this video, I want to talk about how I'm trying to stop living like everything is urgent and how to stop turning peace into something I have to earn. I think the reason that this has been hard for me to catch is because urgency can feel responsible. I mean, it feels like ambition and discipline. And because I care so much about building something meaningful and hopefully reach the goals and dreams I have in my career, the urgency feels justified. Because in my head, I'm constantly reminding myself that time is ticking and I only have this one life. And if I don't hurry, I might miss my chance. So that's kind of a thought that's underneath all of this. So it's not just, I have a lot to do, but more like, if I don't use my time well enough, I could end up living a life that I feel deeply unsatisfied with, that I feel trapped in, and this doesn't feel like it's meant for me. And the fear of that outcome makes everything feel super urgent, like studying, working, trying to find opportunities that are aligned with my goals. All of it feels super loaded. What's even weirder is that the good things are starting to feel urgent too, like walking in nature, reading, crafting, even spending time with the people that I love. Even those things have started to feel like something I need to stay on top of in order to not become a chaotic person and not reach my dreams. So it's like my brain takes everything, even the peaceful activities, and turns it into another task. And when I caught myself thinking like this, I realized that this is not just me having a lot to do, but more like my brain has started to treat my whole life like a whole emergency. I've been convincing myself that this urgency is helping me. Like this constant pressure is what keeps me sharp, keeps me moving, keeps me from becoming lazy. But if I'm being honest, it's not really doing that. Because when I'm in this constant, stressful urgency state, I just become more scattered in my mind. I just feel like I have this brain fog all the time. I just feel anxious all the time. I have a hard time focusing. I feel exhausted. Like my brain is not working optimally. And obviously that's not a good state to build anything. The quality of everything I do just becomes bad. I'm very ineffective when I'm in that constant pressure state. And because I feel this anxious urgency and brain fog all the time, I can't even be present or enjoy my actual life. Like I could be out on a beautiful summer day with the boat, with my family. And obviously that's a moment that should feel amazing and fantastic. Fantastic, oh, it's Swedish. And when I'm doing things like that, I'm just somewhere else in my brain and I'm just stressed. Because part of my brain, when I'm doing things like that, is just obsessing over everything I should be doing, everything I'm not doing, everything I'm afraid that won't happen if I don't push harder. And that's honestly very disturbing for me to think about. Because what is the point of building a good future if I'm mentally absent from the life I already have? And I know from studying that this urgency makes us worse at basically everything. Because when your brain thinks that everything is important, everything is threatening, everything is time sensitive, it gets very hard to think clearly. Your attention narrows, you become more reactive, and you stop thinking deeply and start just trying to survive a feeling. So panic can feel productive just because it is loud, but loud is not the same thing as useful. And I am trying to learn that just because a thought feels intense, it doesn't make it wise. Like I said in my last video, most of the time it's just making me spin faster on the same place. The first actual thing I'm trying to do differently is stop feeding the urgency right at the start of the day. And yes, I mentioned slow mornings in my last video, but I think that is saying something, because clearly this keeps on coming up for a reason. I have realized that when I start my day with too much input, too much noise, too much pressure, my brain start to spiral almost immediately. So one of the biggest things that helps me is having a slow breakfast with no screens. It sounds stupidly simple, but it matters a lot. Because if I start my day with immediately flooding my brain with noise, stimulation, comparison, or just too much input, I feel overwhelmed almost instantly. And once that tone is set, the whole day just feels like damage control. Because then I'm just rushing mentally, I'm even harsher with myself, and everything feels even more loaded. Whereas if I just sit down and eat my breakfast in silence, or at least with no screens, I feel more grounded, less overwhelmed, more like I am in my own life. And this step is also about free time, because free time doesn't feel free when my brain is interrogating me the whole time. When I'm having my free time, my brain is just constantly spamming me with thoughts like, shouldn't you be using your time better? Shouldn't you be doing something useful? Shouldn't you be making progress right now? And that is obviously not rest. That is just me laying in the sofa looking like I'm resting, but I'm still mentally stressing myself out. And I think I have had to admit to myself that I'm not just struggling with being stressed. I struggle with letting time just exist without constantly justifying it. So this step for me is basically stop making the first part of my day more stressful than it needs to be, and stop treating every open hour like it needs to prove something. Another thing that I have realized is that my brain cannot store everything. Like, I don't have infinite iCloud storage up here. And yet I try to store all of my thoughts up in my head. Like thoughts about goals, plans, work, studying, things I should do, things I need to become, things I'm afraid will never happen. Like, all of this is up in my head. And I let it stay up there and clutter my mind, fill up my storage. And then I wonder, why can't I think clearly? So one of the most practical things I want to do more often is just write down my thoughts on paper. Not solve them or come up with a perfect master plan. Just get them out of my head, down on paper, and get more space for creative and productive thoughts in my head. Because when everything is just floating around up here, it all feels equally urgent. But when I write it down, I can visually see what is real, what is repetitive, what actually needs my attention right now, what should go in my future plans, and just like what's relevant to even have in my head and what I should just let go. And then we have doom scrolling, which is sabotaging my life very much, which I think most of us can relate to. Because I have a bad habit of, instead of doing something that would actually restore me, I just put my ass on the sofa and then I start scrolling short form media. And after that, I feel so drained mentally, and I feel tired and overwhelmed, and I most often feel like I hate my life and I want to live everybody else's life. And I can literally convince myself that that is me taking a break when I'm in the sofa doom scrolling. Or even worse, sometimes I tell myself that I'm doing this to get inspiration. But that's not true, because I don't get inspiration from short form content. I'm sorry. I just get it from long form content. And in the moment when I throw myself on the sofa and doom scroll, I am most often very tired and just want a quick dopamine hit. And the problem is that it actually doesn't help at all. I don't feel rested afterwards. I just feel more anxious, more behind, and less connected to myself. So I'm trying to be more honest with myself when I am doom scrolling. Because scrolling is not resting. It's just another form of sedation. And there's a clear difference. Because rest and recovery actually give something back to you, but sedation just makes you disappear for a while and get a short moment of numbness. And I think it's really important to make that distinction when you have a brain that is chronically on overdrive, like mine is. I think this may be one of the most important steps in this video. Obviously, all the steps are important for me. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I have started to make not just work feel like work, but also self-care, wellness, just all the activities that has to do with my mental well-being. I have turned them into work as well. For example, if I'm out on a nature walk, part of me is thinking, oh good, Victoria, now you had checked off connecting to yourself. Or if I'm journaling, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, good, Victoria, now you had checked off being reflective. When I read fiction or my pleasure books, if you want to call it that, I think like, oh good, now I'm nourishing my mind and expanding my vocabulary. When I do my meditative yoga sessions, I'm like, good, Victoria, now you have checked off regulating your nervous system. And obviously those things are good. They are very good for my mental well-being. But I think the problem is when they just become something that I add to my daily performance report. Because I'm not resting if I'm thinking like that while doing those activities. I'm still evaluating myself by tracking and measuring my productivity. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want every part of my life to exist just because it improves me. Some things need to be able to exist just because they simply make me feel like a real human again. So I'm trying to learn how to let some things just be enough by their own. Like I need to be able to be outside in the nature and just feel the breeze on my skin without it being a wellness strategy. Or I need to be able to read just because I love disappearing into a book and get into the whole fantasy realm. I love that shit. Not because it is nourishing my mind or expanding my vocabulary. I just love reading. Fantasy, especially. I love fantasy. And I definitely want to be able to be with the people that I love without constantly thinking or resenting the fact that I'm not being productive. So to me, that feels like the real healing. Not just being better at handling stress, but being able to let some moments exist without having to ask what they are doing for my future. So I'm not trying to become a person who never feels urgency again, because I care a lot about my future and building a meaningful life and reach my dreams. That part of me is not going away, but I'm trying to stop feeding the kind of urgency that makes me abandon my actual life while I'm trying to build that future. Because I don't want rest to be another task. I don't want peace to feel like another project. And I don't want a future to be built upon a version of me that is constantly resenting her present. So if you relate to this, I think the practical takeaway of this is notice where you're treating everything like it matters equally. Notice where you're adding chaos when you're already feeling behind. Get the pressure out of your head and down on paper or on your phone. Be honest about what's actually recovery and what is just numbing. And let some parts of your life exist without constantly asking what they are doing for your future. Because sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop living like your whole life is on fire. And if you want to see my ongoing journey where I work on this, you should probably subscribe. And obviously don't forget to like, and please comment your thoughts about this urgency, or if you're feeling this urgency. You can literally just write, I relate, and I will be happy because I don't want to feel alone. I just want to hear someone else struggle with this. Because other people's struggle feeds my confidence. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm not. Anyways, peace and love.